Rogue One, a Star Wars story. So Rogue One, a Star Wars story is the first movie in the Star Wars Anthology series. It's a prequel slash spin-off, so it's not going to feature a lot of the main characters from the original movies or the prequels. In fact, the entire cast is made up of a bunch of new faces that we've never seen before. Felicity Jones rounds out the main cast, and she's surrounded by other people such as Diego Luna, Riz Ahmed, Forrest Whitaker, and a bunch of other characters. And the basic plot of the film is they're a bunch of rebels, and they're fighting the Empire, and they're trying to steal the plans to the Death Star. Now, if you've seen any Star Wars movie, particularly the first one, you pretty much have an idea of where this is going to go, and you pretty much know what the end result is going to be. But the thing is, the story is about how they actually get to that point. And they do it pretty well throughout the course of this movie. Okay, first off, what I like about this film is Felicity Jones' character. She plays this character named Jyn Erso, and she's basically this... She starts off as this would-be child who's just a renegade, but now she joins the rebels. And she's on missions with them, doing various things, going from one point to another, trying to learn about the rebellion and why they're bad, or why the Empire's bad, and so on and so forth. However, on the bad side, there's a lot of other characters. My favorite character is Admiral Krennic, who's played by Ben Mendelsohn, and he's this really uptight, kind of power-hungry guy who's really, really, really high on himself after he finishes building the Death Star, which is pretty obvious. He had Mads Mikkelsen, who plays Galen Erso, Jin's father, do it, and he was integral in the construction of the Death Star. And they basically take him against his will, and he just has to build the thing anyway. For a while, this movie did seem kind of slow at first. The first act was kind of going at a snail's pace, and then things started really picking up as the movie went on, which is good, because the first act also included a bunch of planet jumping from planet to planet, and they actually had the planets' names listed down there, which is strange, because I've never seen that before in any of the movies. One planet in particular, a lot of old Star Wars fans will probably recognize and like it, was mentioned at some point in the movie, and that's where a lot of things take place. There's also no opening crawl in this movie. That's a new thing. This is the first movie I think I've seen where that's happened. It literally just says a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, and then it just cuts to space, and there's no crawl. It was rather stunning. Going back to the story, there are really a lot of things I like about this movie. Well, for one thing, the rebellion, they're obviously the good guys, and the Empire's the bad guys. But the rebels, I like how they made it seem like the rebellion isn't as nearly clean-cut as it might have seemed. Going back to the original movies, the rebellion was just this all-do-good force. They want to free the galaxy and get rid of the Empire and try to restore justice and bring back the Old Republic and everything. And that's all good and fine, but they never actually show the other in-depth workings of the rebellion. This movie does that. And it shows that it's not all hunky-dory. Everything's not all shits and giggles there. Because at some point, they do make some really iffy things or very questionable actions that make you kind of cringe a little bit. They're still the good guys, but they're not nearly as clean-cut and all Boy Scout and goody two-shoes as everyone said. There's some black and white in there, and there's some gray. And there is a moment where some of them are called out on that. The action in this movie is grand. There are several action pieces throughout this movie. The final fight scene in the third act, that is what everything has been building towards, and it's fucking terrific. It's a nice fight. Everything has come down to this, and you have to know who wins and who loses. Obviously, if you've seen the first movies, you pretty much know who wins. But since this is a cast of all new characters, none of them appear in the original movies or are mentioned. So with that being said, there is a pretty good chance that most of these characters will not make it to the end of this movie at all, if any of them. How many didn't make it? I can't tell you, but I will touch on that in a spoiler review I have later on. Adding on to the action, there is a lot to talk about in regards to scale, because Gareth Edwards is known for doing this, and there's a huge scale to everything. When you see the Death Star in space, it's obviously the Death Star. You've seen it before, but it's fucking huge, and that's obvious. But then you see other shots of like Star Destroyers sitting in front of it and near it, and TIE Fighters flying by it, and that really puts it into perspective how big this thing is, and how massive this thing is, and how massive the Empire is as a whole compared to everything else. And it's happened several times throughout the film, and you have to love it. Another thing in this film, Darth Vader. Yeah, I guess we gotta talk about Vader because he's obviously the most well-known character in all Star Wars lore. He is in this movie, yes, but not that much. I'd say, if I could estimate, maybe 3, 4, or 5 minutes worth of Darth Vader footage in the entire movie. Granted, this was never about Darth Vader. This is not about Darth Vader, and I'm glad they kept him in there sparingly. This is not his movie. This is about everyone else, and he's just a part of the movie. But the few scenes he does have, he steals them as usual, and James Earl Jones provides his voice, because why wouldn't he? There is one scene in the film that Darth Vader has that is just flat out awesome and well-deserved and something Darth Vader would do. Again, I won't tell you, but I will touch on it in a spoiler review. Overall, the film as a whole was very enjoyable. But I did say earlier that the first act was kind of slow to crawl and then it picked up along the way. Well, that's true, but I had to think about it as I was driving home. And I had to put everything into perspective, okay, everything's building up, everyone's introduced, and then everything just falls into place and everything starts happening, and then boom, we got our story. So I really had to think about that. But between that, the set pieces, the characters who were fairly likable, although a little bit underdeveloped, unfortunately, the action, the story, the end result, and everything that built up to it, because the end battle is pretty much how everything plays out, I will definitely say I like this movie a lot. It was grittier, it was realer, it felt like a war film. You actually got to saw the rebellion up close, like the inner workings. And with everything in there, I will definitely say this is one of the best movies of the year, and for that reason, it gets the highly coveted Diamond Ribbon rating from me. I know somebody's probably saying, well, you're biased because you're a Star Wars fan. Well, I like Star Wars, and I really thought this was a good movie. Look at me. I'm wearing a Star Wars Rebel shirt. I have the Rebel logo on. Why would I not be biased? Well, I'm not biased, but of course I'm a fan. So that's my opinion on the movie, and I want to know what you all thought. Did you like it? Did you dislike it? What did you think? Whatever you think, leave me a comment below and tell me how you feel. Also, don't forget to check out my Twitter at AsteroidMike. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Please stay tuned for my spoiler review that will be coming up shortly. And until then, I will see you around, so peace out.